that first day, I don't think I'll be able to forget that first day very quickly. I'd been to Asia before, I'd been to Europe before with music, so traveling wasn't a problem, but when I first got there, I had these suitcases and it was probably raining, and there were lots of clouds, and it looked like I was kind of in a fairy tale because there were no mountains, just flat. It was just totally flat, and trains everywhere and people on bikes, and I thought, how do people live here? This is nothing like I know. And I remembered hauling my suitcases onto a train and then whizzing away from the train station to the stop where the mission home was and trying to load everything off and then haul it all to the vans where we were supposed to go. And I felt like as soon as I got there, I felt like I belonged there, but everything around me looked totally different than America. I remember that, it was just cold. It was, when I got there, I mean, it was the middle of July, but the wind would blow and you'd feel kind of cold. And I thought, what is this place? But it was really eye-opening to me. I grew up in Utah. I grew up in northern Utah, where 95% of my high school was Latter-day Saint. They were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I thought, how can I fit into this new place? God asked me to come, but I feel like it's home, but I feel a little funny about serving here. Anyway, it took a couple months for me to adjust to where I was at and to adjust to riding a bike or sitting on the back of a bike with my companion pedaling, and that's how we get to appointments, and handling the rain and the weather. And the people, though, were friendly. They knew that I didn't speak the language very well, and people in the Netherlands speak English quite well, so learning Dutch was a challenge because they always wanted to practice their English. But I remember that they would use their choppy English, some of them, and some of them very fluent English, to help me feel welcome, and I really appreciated that.
And one thing that was really nice is when we arrived there on our first day, they got us signed in, they got us registered with the government, and they took us to what's called a pannenkoek house. And it's a pancake house in English, but a Dutch pannenkoek is not anything at all like an English pancake. It's really thin, and it's super good. And they have a plate that's maybe this big, and you have to split it with someone. There's no way you're eating it by yourself. One person orders the meal version. You can put like cheese and meat and all kinds of things you would never imagine putting on there. And somebody else orders the dessert one, and you just eat half of each other's. And that's a super cool little tradition that you go through when you first go. It's the first real meal you eat there. And that was a lot of fun.
I remember the first day was we got to the mission office, which was in Leiden, and we had to get on a train to my first area, which was Vlissingen. Man, I love that area. But we took I think it was like a 3 or 4 hour train ride, and I just met all sorts of different people. My trainer was awesome and had me talking to people, and most of the people in the Netherlands spoke English, so they would switch into English with me. But they were talking to me. But I remember the first night we got back, when we finally got to our apartment, we walked in and the door was already open. And so I was thinking, oh no, is someone already broken into my apartment? This is the first day. But it turned out it was just a senior couple setting up the apartment. But we were like, holy cow. But I just remember at the same sense just feeling so overwhelmed with holy cow, the Lord has entrusted me with all these people. And it's my job to help them and understand who they are and who they were before this life and where they can go. But that's kind of what I remember from my very first day. I remember that first day, just those kind of vivid memories stand out just because they stand out, I guess. But that entire week, I remember I just felt so tired and jet lagged that it was all kind of a big blur for a little while. But I remember it was very uplifting at the same sense. I can't remember very many memories from that first week, but I can remember those feelings I had of what it was I was there to do, and how I felt and how motivating it was to feel like you're doing something that's bigger than yourself.
I remember the first day, the flight over there was over 9 hours, and I didn't sleep at all. I was all excited, talking to people, and we finally arrived. We arrived in the morning time, and some of my first impressions just walking around, as we got out of the airport carrying our bags, we met up with the president and the assistants, and I just remember thinking, oh man, like what am I doing? This is crazy, because it finally hits you. You know, you finally land, you're like, wow, I'm in another country. And then I remember we had to take the train you land in Schiphol in the airport, and you have to go to Leiden to the mission office. And we were waiting for a train, and I remember my first impression, just looking around, I was like, why is everyone so tall? Why are they so huge? I'm a midget. And it just all that combined with the fact that I couldn't understand what they were saying, just totally intimidated. I was like, oh man. And so we arrive at the office, and they're filling out our papers and everything. And the assistant's like, all right, we're going to take you out and go contacting. And I was like, oh no, please. I'm not ready for this, anything but this. And so they took us in shifts, and I remember I went out with one of them, and you know, he told me to say something, just a simple contact. And I had, you know, so apprehensive about it, didn't know what to say. I managed to get it out, and then he took over and saved me on somebody we were talking to. But it was a lot the first day. And I remember we went, there was a thing that the mission president did. When new missionaries arrived, we went to get pannenkoeken, which are basically like crepes, but big and thin. And we went to a fancy restaurant for that, and it was really enjoyable. But afterwards, we drove to a windmill to take some pictures, and I was falling asleep. I couldn't stay awake by this point because the jet lag had finally hit in, and I just remember feeling sick. I was like, oh, I wish I need that crepe, that pannenkoeken. But it was a lot the first few days. But then the next day, we met up with my trainer, and it went on from there.